Greetings everyone, welcome back to Blade Bias. Today is time for the annual video where Ethan talks about another hobby and applies something that he learned about it to the balisong community and talks about it at you guys for 15 minutes or whatever. Today, I want to talk about the effects that having a review style culture or a review centered community can have on balisong sales, specifically my problems with limited time runs of knives. Specifically things like the Corvus, where, the company announces that they're only going to make 200 of them or whatever. And how my journey back into discovering that I enjoy Transformers and learning about the market that surrounds them has kind of taught me a little bit about how that can harm a community and the things that maybe can help offset that. So right now, by the way, this is all opinion. If you disagree, let me know. That's the point of discussion. But this is just how I've been viewing things the past few months. I think we can all agree that the balisong community right now is dominated by head-mounted review-style content. It's more low-effort content focused on, talking about your feelings on a knife. The Blade Bias format, basically. And I'm not saying that I am the one that owns that format. It's just this channel was born out of that same trend, the Will Hirsch flip style, the balisong flipping style even. Just low effort talk about a knife. But the thing is, with all of the videos being review oriented, what are the reasons that you make a review? You make a review to inform an audience whether or not they should put their hard-earned money into a product, to give them more info than they otherwise would have had to make a purchasing decision, especially if we're talking about bigger, long format, more involved reviews like Will Hirsch and Brandon do, like Ty used to do, or like I used to do. The problem is that kind of structure, that kind of focus in a community on review style content means that these limited time knives are inherently put at a disadvantage the moment that they come out. Let me explain. Let's say that I am someone like Will and Brandon who put, tens and tens of hours into a single video. Production takes months of writing, filming, editing, all of that. The second that I see that a balisong, like the Corvus, gets announced, and LDY immediately goes, hey, we made 280 or however many of these, my interest in spending all of that time into making a review immediately goes away, almost entirely. Because chances are my video is going to release after the product is already done. And the problem is, my video is going to be entirely obsolete at that point. What's the point of watching a review for a product that I can no longer buy? What's the point of producing a review if the people who are looking to make that purchasing decision don't exist anymore because you can't purchase that balisong? And I'm not saying it's entirely useless. There are still entertainment values in that, but those are the sort of things that you have to balance when you're making giant videos like that. You have to understand that your audience is going to be massively reduced because no one is looking at these balisongs. And in turn, it creates a feedback loop where if everyone decides not to make a video and put that effort in, then fewer eyes are on the balisong in general. And as soon as you're not able to purchase it anymore, it just kind of fades away into obscurity, never to be talked about or referenced again. And that's just kind of how the balisong community is. Now, this is where Transformers come in. Because in my time looking into Transformers, I made the realization that they have the same model. Their YouTube content is primarily focused on review-style content on whether or not you should buy a product. The problem is, or the thing is, that once those figures are discontinued, they live on through the secondhand market because there are so many people that collect Transformers. And as much as I despise to say this because I think it's really stupid, some people even use them as like an investment vehicle. For example, one of my favorite Transformer figures of all time, and one that I want to own so very badly and have for years, was a giant Godzilla-looking figure called Trypticon. It retailed for like $150, but then Toys R Us went out of business. They got sold off to a bunch of bargain distributors, and you could find them for like $80, maybe even down to like $60. But nowadays, they sell for like $300 minimum. So people are also buying those to kind of be investment vehicles in hopes that they'll double, triple in value over the course of their life. Kind of like trading cards, I guess, are. And I hate when cards or toys become investment vehicles or whatever you want to call it. It's stupid. But that even prolongs the life of these items on the secondhand market. The thing is, with the Transformers, those old reviews are still incredibly useful even after a toy gets discontinued, because you have lingering stock on different distributors and you have a secondhand market that will almost always have everything available. There's so many Transformers out there, there's so many Transformer collectors out there, that you can almost always find a figure that you're looking for on the secondhand market. So those reviews are still helpful because there are still people looking to make a purchasing decision. The thing with balisongs is that we don't have that. Our community is so small that once a balisong runs out of stock, like the Corvus, where only 200 or 300 were ever made, no one's really selling them. It's not the same case where you can always find a Corvus for sale somewhere, so those old videos become relevant still. It's almost always the case that the people that keep them, or the people that buy them, end up keeping them because A, it's a rare balisong, but B, it's just good and they enjoy it. And no one else is really able to buy it. So it creates this really bad feedback loop where a balisong comes out, it's announced that it's going to be a limited edition, and then once you can't buy it anymore, no one can find it on the secondhand market, no one's making a purchasing decision, no one watches the YouTube videos, and thus less and less eyes are put on this balisong, rendering it forgotten to time. And you have entire brands that get screwed over because their entire business model is reliant upon releasing things and then discontinuing them. Case in point, someone like Max Ace. How many of you know about one of the first ever balisongs that was sub $100 that was also 70-75 aluminum? It was called the Phantom. And I guarantee you, half of the people that watch this video aren't even going to know what the Phantom looks like, because they released it, they sold it for like 2 weeks, and then they discontinued it, and it got lost in all of the shuffle. No one wanted to review it because it wasn't for sale anymore, so no one made videos about it, so there was very little activity on it, less eyes on it, and over time it becomes useless because the only videos that people make are reviews. Now, this can be remedied if you change your focus from reviews to more fun style videos. Case in point, something like Will and Brandon's Sound Test, where I'm not watching that for a purchasing decision, I'm watching that for an entertainment value. Or maybe something like Pyro talking about old knives that he found at Blade Show or whatever. That's kind of learning about the history of the hobby. So once you turn and you focus your attention of your community onto a different subject that isn't just reviews, reviews still have their place, don't get me wrong, but then those balisongs become relevant again because you have a reason to talk about them again. The Frank makes a really unique sound that could be really cool in one of those YouTube videos where Will and Brandon do a sound challenge. Especially since it's so rare, it might be a good way to trip the other person up because, they haven't heard it before, they haven't heard it often. It becomes relevant again, it becomes talked about again, and it doesn't get lost in the history books. Same thing with the Corvus. Maybe this is a balisong that performed ridiculously well for the price range. Cough, cough. That's what I believe. So you talk about it in kind of a history or a collection point of view. Hey, here's a balisong that really outperformed everything else in its class, and it paved the way for this or this. You talk about that in a history video, and suddenly it becomes relevant again. Suddenly people are looking at it again. And then you even get the secondhand thing of people are starting to look for them on the secondhand market, and that interest comes up, which might cause someone to sell them, which means that they're circulating around more, More people being aware of a balisong is always a good thing. And the problem with only ever posting reviews and being an entirely review-focused community in a market that is so small is that you don't get those eyes on those balisongs that no one can buy anymore, because no one's interested in looking at those videos that are only, should you purchase this? Should you purchase that? So I think it's just a really interesting thing to look at. It's one thing that you can solve by either scaling everything up so much that you can always buy something secondhand, or focusing your content elsewhere so that people are aware of these for much longer, leading to a more healthy secondhand market and more people being aware of these makers who are making, pardon me, my camera died, so hopefully everything looks semi the same. It's been a little bit of time since I recorded the last segment, but basically what I was saying is you have more people who are aware of those limited time runs and those limited time makers far after the fact of them being available. This is a video that I've wanted to make for a long time, but it just never felt right because the solution was always, we need different content. I mean, it's no secret that YouTube holds up this hobby in a massive way, and I don't just say that because I am a YouTuber. I mean, there are a ton of balisongs that are fantastic that just didn't get a ton of coverage, so public knowledge of them isn't very high. It's very, very true that both YouTube creators, Instagram creators, all of it are hugely influential into the kind of general public awareness of different balisongs. So the whole, oh gosh, I pulled on my charger. The whole conclusion of we need to just change the content never really felt satisfying. So it was very, very interesting to look into Transformers and figure out, hey, these figures, because I personally have been watching reviews from 3 years ago because I'm looking at these different figures that are available both, as overstock from when they were being made and also secondhand because they're still relevant. And we really don't have that in this hobby, which is sad, but also kind of just a product of what the hobby is and the size of the hobby, because ultimately we are still very small, especially compared to something like Transformers. But I thought it was very interesting to get that different perspective of mass. If things were being more produced, if there were more content creators, if there were more makers, if there were more things making more things, then this wouldn't be as big of a problem because there'd be more people selling in the secondhand market, and then these reviews would stay relevant for far longer. But the reality is the hobby just can't support it. We're losing makers. We're not gaining them, which is, it is what it is. But it's an interesting discussion nonetheless, one that I've wanted to talk about for a while now, just with a little bit more of a satisfying ending than we need to change our content from reviews, because I really don't think it's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see a world where balisongs aren't just mostly reviews. Not all the time, but most of the time. So let me know what you think. Hopefully this was interesting. Hopefully I made sense at all there. Kind of getting to the point where I'm just rambling violently for a really long time and I forget points, or maybe I don't make sense. So hopefully this one made sense. Hopefully you're interested. Let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Later.